Coming up on your favorite podcast, it is time for another edition of Peak Cinema. Yes. And tonight, Bangarang, Rufio. We're going to Hook, Neverland, 1991. Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julia Roberts. A cast of thousands, if you will. A lot to talk about with this one. This is one of those rare ones where it's not critically received well, but the audiences seem to love it and has staying power. It's kind of become a cult classic. I personally have not seen this movie in, 25 years probably, for sure. It's been a long, long time, maybe longer. Might be 30 years since I've seen this, which is freaking Jesus Christ, I'm old. We're joined tonight by, of course, the usual suspects on Peak Cinema, Ryan, Lauren, and Quad Pod. We're going with Allison tonight, our movie buff, our resident movie buff historian. She's going to offer up a lot of thoughts. She's a huge Peter Pan fan in general, so she's got a lot of thoughts on the movie, on the story, and a lot to get to tonight. So, Peak Cinema, Hook, coming up next with Ryan, Lauren, and Allison on the pod. Yeah, that's right. It's time for Peak Cinema. It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That is my buddy Rhino over there on the left-hand side of my screen. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
It's good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Happy
you look
to be
lovely.
here.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
And
good to
I
have
smell of biofreeze, so it's a good day.
you. You on? Is this 3 days of biofreeze?
That is correct, Tim.
Jesus.
That is
Like,
the old neck's a little tight.
Is this all from just coaching?
Coaching and sleeping on the couch.
Oh, Lauren. Okay, well, Lauren can fill us in on that. Lauren Nelson Kane is in the middle of the screen today. Hi, Lo.
Hi,
Is it the
I'm not
freeze that's put him on the couch?
I am not forcing him to do that. He keeps waking up at 4 a.m. That's not my problem.
That's
So I
a
go
great
downstairs and I lay down on the couch and have a little nap until the kid wakes up.
Yeah.
But it's affecting your neck and your knee.
Well, my knee is because of coaching. That's because I'm fat.
Well,
God.
duly noted. Thank you for thank you. Write that down, Lauren. I don't know if we got that. I want to make sure we get that info. And then, of course, you know what? We love when we get to do this, and we don't get to do it very often here on the podcast. We get to do a quad pod tonight. 4 people on this particular podcast this evening, as we are joined by our resident film buff, film expert. Can we say film expert? You actually have a degree in it. It is Allison Wanchoba. Hello, Allison.
Hello, Tim. How are you? I'm really happy
I'm
to
living-
join.
Just living the dream up here. Just living the good life. What can I say? A couple days before school starts, we're back at it. It's a great time. Tonight, Allison wanted to get in on this pod. Allison is a big fan of the subject matter tonight and just said, you got to let me in. I got thoughts. So we're going to try to let everybody, I'm just going to be traffic cop tonight, although I have my thoughts as well. But I want to make sure we get everybody in and get a lot of people talking. Ryan, this is your pick tonight.
It is.
We are doing the movie Hook from 1991. I was 10. The Twins won the World Series that year. It's really a formative time in my life. Rhino, this is your pick. You were not born in 1991.
You're right, Tim. I was born in 1993. However, this is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Correct.
That was so crazy. I had to repeat it.
I believe that this is a perfect movie.
A perfect movie.
Yep. I have 0 problems with this movie.
You have no notes. You have nothing to add to this other than that it is
nothing that I would change.
No. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Lauren
Lauren.
nods.
Yeah. Lauren, is this a top 5 favorite movie of yours and a near perfect film?
I'll say no to both. Not okay. And let me make something very clear. This is an amazing movie, and I love it. This is like the movie of everyone my age's childhood. The movie. I'm looking at the release date, 3 months old when it came out. So I can't speak for actually being alive and sentient at that time. But I absolutely love this movie. It is probably not a top 5 or a top 10, but it is just like distilled nostalgia for my childhood. I absolutely love it.
Allison, where do you stand on Hook? And is this a perfect movie in your mind?
So growing up, Peter Pan stuff in general was my jam. And Hook became part of that. I would agree with Lauren in that the Hook movie, Peter Pan, What If He Grew Up, the What If Marvel situation of that became the definitive movie of the 90s child in that sense. So I grew up watching it a lot. My dad, okay. You already kind of have some feelings about him for being an Eagles fan, y'all, which we love him anyway. He also is really creeped out by the Peter Pan story in general because these are 100-year-old children we're talking about. These are children that never grow up, and that scares the bejesus out of him. And so for that reason, it's not like we had this movie on all the freaking time, but I can go beat by beat on this movie, and I really like it, even though it has a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes for some reason.
Don't even get me started.
I'll get started on that. Yes, yes.
I can see like a mediocre score on Rotten Tomatoes, but at 29%, everyone needs to check themselves, okay?
To be fair, the audience score is 78. I think the audience score is much, 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 much higher. You were speaking to your point.
The audience score is through the roof.
Yes.
But on your question about it being a perfect movie, I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I do like it enough to watch it over and over again.
Sometimes all that really matters. I'll say this, Rhino, as I bring it back to you. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I don't think it's a top 5 movie. I think the movie has problems. There are things that are very nice about it. There are things that work in it. But there's a lot of things that feel kind of clunky, that don't quite work for me. And I think also kind of mess with the story a little too much. I'll just come out and say it. I just don't think Dustin Hoffman's very good here. Like I've seen Dustin Hoffman. Yep. I'm going to say it. I am going to say it. I don't think this is his best work. Here's the problem I have. Now I'll just say it. This is nobody's best work. This is nobody's best work. This is not Spielberg's best work. This is not Robin Williams' best work. This is not Dustin Hoffman's best work. This is not Maggie Smith's best work. Bob Hoskins' best work.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying there are problems. There are problems here.
Ryan's coming upstairs.
Ryan left the podcast. I'm not allowed to say anything. All right, Lauren, I'll stop talking. Take over and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong.
So you are.
Okay.
You are.
Okay.
This is, if you want to say technically this isn't Spielberg's or Robin Williams' best work, I think that's a fair thing to say. I do think that's because of the batting average there. I think this is one of Dustin Hoffman's best. And you can feel how much fun he had emanating off of him. And that's part of how magnificent this movie is like when actors get to play, when they get to do something that's truly fun and exciting, you can feel it. It makes their performance so much better. Dustin Hoffman's Hook is like the Hook outside of the Disney cartoon version. And even that, I wouldn't say the Disney cartoon version of Captain Hook is like super, aside from the image of him, is like super important in my mind, the performance of that. Dustin Hoffman's Hook is why you watch this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think Robin Williams is carrying the film the whole way. I think this is totally a Robin Williams film, not a Dustin Hoffman film.
I mean, it is a Robin Williams film. He's the main character.
Well, Dustin Hoffman gets top billing.
Does he get top billing?
Yeah, he gets top billing in the end credits.
Yeah, he does. Dustin Hoffman is the cartoonish villain of this movie. And I'll get more into why I think that actually works for Neverland. Neverland and Earth are distinct in many very solid ways. There is a childlike, imaginative sense of Neverland right down to the set, right down to the music. Everything
Set's
about
pretty.
Everything about Neverland feels like it came from a child's imagination. Like, compare that to Earth, and the music is not nearly as flowy and, imaginative and grand. It almost sounds like plopping any soundtrack from the early 90s that's like a mid-range movie, and that's where you get the Earth scenes. But the Neverland scene, and that translates to how the characters are. I almost think of the pirates and the adults in general of Neverland to be kind of like South Park adults, in the sense
yes,
that
oh my God.
they are cartoonishly, inadept at what they do. And they are all how a child would want to see an adult, where they can't get anything right, but they're also at the same time kind of like, they do have a lot of power in the situation. And in some respects, that's kind of scary, because what do these guys do with as much power that they have? So everyone in Neverland is let's just look at Dustin Hoffman's Hook for a moment. He stole someone's kids, someone who was a rival, 20, 30 years ago, who was a 12-year-old kid, and he wants his war.
It's a great little plot piece. It was too Burgess Meredith-y Penguin for me. It was a little too much for me on that. I gotta concede. Ryan, you're angry at me. I have to let you have the floor for me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to get up and walk away. Please have the floor.
I simply needed my medication. It is that time of night. I think that Dustin Hoffman's performance is unbelievable. I love it. There is nothing that I would change about it. I think that the fantastical way in which he is just a petty level of evil is unbelievable. I think that it's out of the pages of a novel, which is perfect. The thing that I love about this movie is it is very much happening to these characters, and at no point does it not feel like a dream. And Hook says that to Peter Pan when they're fighting, and he says, this is all a dream. You're going to wake up and you're going to be Peter Banning, and he walks through how nothing will change for him. But of course, remembering this changes everything, right? There is that sense of wonder. There is that, reconnecting with your childhood. That nostalgia is very much a central part of the story, as much as it is the appeal of the movie to a lot of us who saw it when we were growing up. It's a reminder to not let life catch you. You know what I mean? It's always be the shadow and be playful. And the way that they play with shadows throughout the movie is phenomenal. And John Williams' score is truly one of the greatest of all time. I mean, everything that he touches is gold. But
it's not his best score. It's not even his top 3 best score.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you.
You don't put Jurassic Park or Star Wars or anything ahead of that?
I am the John Williams fan, and Lauren can back me up on this. That
Okay, I
listen
concede.
to
You
his-
are a bigger John Williams fan than I am.
I listen to his music regularly, just in my everyday life, not just when we're doing movie podcasts.
I don't know what to say to that.
The Flight to Neverland theme alone is one of the 6 greatest movie score songs of all time. It is better than anything he did in Jurassic Park.
Whoa, hang on now. Hang on.
And that's not to say Jurassic Park is bad. All right? It's a
If I
great
played
score.
the two side by side, how many people would pick Jurassic Park? Like, who would say, "Oh, I know that. That's Jurassic Park." And how many people would say, "Oh, I know that. That's Neverland."
Well, that's a different question.
To Ryan's credit, recognizability does not mean it is a better song.
That's fair. I'll concede.
You know-
that.
It might be more popular. Jurassic Park's more popular than Hook. I'll concede that. But I think that everything about this hits on such a level, and it holds up in such a way, right? Like we did the Twister podcast earlier this week,
Yes, we did.
right? And I would argue that movie doesn't hold up, right? There are
Has some
parts of it-
dated moments to it. I will
Correct.
concede that. Absolutely, it does.
It doesn't hold up. This is timeless. And I'm sitting here thinking while I'm watching this movie, God, if they redid this, could they redo it? And the answer is no, because you have the practical sets, you have the practical effects, you have the celebrity cameos throughout, you have the fun feeling of, you can feel the fun that Robin Williams is having with those kids in the food fight scene.
Agreed with that. Totally agree.
And you can feel the energy of the production whenever the pirates are all on screen together and they're chanting for Hook. Where's the hook? Give us the hook. Right? Like there's energy there. It's like watching a sporting event and being able to feel the crowd through the screen. You don't get that in modern movies. They're corporate and sanitized. And this, as much as it is, this feels like I want a movie to feel. Right? It drags me there and it holds me and it makes me feel like I'm not living my life for an hour, for 2 hours and 20 minutes or whatever the length of this movie.
It is a half hour too long.
It is.
I'll concede that it's a half hour too long.
It is escapism film at its finest. It's beautiful in that way. And I love what it does for me in that. I love what it gave me in my childhood. I love that every time I hear the score, I think of my grandpa. Now you're
going to make me feel like shit. Now I have to like the movie. Look what you're doing to me.
I'm selling you. I coach your persuasive speakers, Tim. This is why.
Here's what I'll say on that point about escapism and how you can't really replicate a movie like Hook today because things are so sanitized and things are so corporate today. I am looking at Steven Spielberg's more recent work, and something that has always bothered me a little bit about his more recent works, like The Fabelmans, Maestro. He produced Maestro, though. He didn't direct it. West Side Story, Ready Player One. All of these movies feel like they're trying to capture that it factor that worked so well in the 80s and 90s when Steven Spielberg was like the king of family movies. That awe, that wonder, that kind of universal appeal. When you look at Hook, how could you as an audience member not just drown in feeling with just, the food fight scene or, Maggie singing that song on the pier for her mom.
Oh, not a dry eye in the house.
Like those are things that really appealed and could really sell during the 80s and 90s. It is so weird to me that, in a good way, that Steven Spielberg is the same director who 2 years after Hook made, was it 2 years after Hook? I'm not sure. Maybe 1 year after. He made Schindler's frickin' List.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the same director as Schindler's List. So, you're getting a time where this was the flavor of movies, like emotions captured to the nth degree. And it's not like that you can't have emotions captured now, but the zeitgeist feels different, doesn't it?
I agree with you on that. I completely agree. Lauren, jump in. I know you got thoughts.
I definitely feel all of those things. I think more to your point that you're feeling, I assume, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. It's a little too ambitious. It's a little too stuffed. And I don't disagree with that, but I also don't know what I would ever cut out of this movie.
I can help you with that, but continue, please.
I'm reading the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes that were, written way back then, trying to figure out what it is these people don't like about this movie. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching it completely. I'm 8 years old again. It's like impossible to remove myself from that place. And we have covered a lot of movies that were very popular when I was a kid, and I have no problem reviewing them critically. This one was really hard. This one is like my heart.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm trying to figure out what it is that other people don't like. And it's a lot of that. It's a lot of like, it's a little ambitious. It's a little too stuffed. Things like Dustin Hoffman's a little too cartoonish, or so, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm thinking to myself, what movie am I watching that you're not watching? Because what I'm watching is a child's fantasy.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of the movie, the whole message of the movie is kind of twofold.
Yeah.
One, you should not forget the part of yourself that is a child. That part should always be living in you. But also, two, from a child's perspective, your parents and adults in your life do love you. They do love you, and they are needed, even if it feels like they are mad or angry at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a twofold situation, because it's not just Peter who needs to discover something about his role as a grown man, a father, and a child at heart, but it's also Jack who needs to kind of discover, I want these things from my dad and he's not giving them to me. But why is that? And how can I meet him in the middle? He's my father. Maggie reminds him that their mom is still waiting at home for him and their mother still loves them and all this stuff. So I think there's kind of like a dual messaging thing happening. There are a couple of tiny little plot points throughout the film. And I understand that might feel overbloated, but at no point when I'm watching the movie am I confused, or am I feeling like those story beats don't make sense or are kind of shoehorned into the film. They all feel, to me, effortless.
Here's why that is. Here's why I think that is. And this is what makes any big, ambitious film work. Its theme is crystal clear throughout the entire movie. Mm-hmm. And they even establish it outright in the beginning of the film. That scene, this is the pivotal scene, the thematic message scene to me. It's Peter's on the phone. The kids are this is at Grandma Wendy's house. Wendy's house. And they're jumping around, making a noise. And then he, blows up at them. The kids go out. Oh my gosh. And Moira, his wife, is still there and kind of gives him a come to Jesus moment. Your kids are not going to be young forever. In fact, you only have a few years before they don't want to hang out with you as much anymore, if at all. So honor these moments. They are precious. Do not miss them. Do not waste them away. And that is the entire crux of the movie. It's not even just about honoring your inner child and rediscovering your inner child. It's about being in the moment.
Yeah.
And seeing the wonder in the moment of everything around you. That's the crux. That's where the winning is. That's where the victory is found. You think about Captain Hook, for example. That guy is stuck in the past. Trying to... Isn't his rivalry with Peter Pan is not even just about revenge and winning. It's about finding purpose in life, because he can't find it right now. He's suicidal, for God's sake, and it's passed off as a joke, but still, he does not want to live in the now, because there is no such thing as magic right now.
And he's desperately afraid of time and death.
Yes.
Desperately.
I think that I will say this. I think the lion's share of my issues, and I don't know if the reviewers in Rotten Tomatoes, like Gene Siskel back in 1991, were able to articulate this the way that I think I see it. I really do think there is a good movie here. I think you said the same thing with Twister, Lauren, and I agree with you. I think there's a good movie, if not great movie here. The problem here, I think, is that it takes 30 minutes to get there. And it's all the same, like, it's the same Hollywood tropes to describe every father-son relationship, every parent relationship. It's, oh, dad's really busy. Dad's at the office. Dad has to close another business deal. Oh, dad missed the baseball game. Oh, son and dad are having issues. Oh, dad can't keep his promises. I feel like we have seen that multiple times. Like, that is the first 25 minutes of Liar Liar. That's the first 25 minutes of several movies that have come out, in the last 30, 40 years. And the movie, the exposition it needed was the exposition we got with Tinkerbell in the in the tree, right? Where he remembers. And all the exposition of how the story gets told comes back. And it's like, we could have just started there. Like, we got something here. Like, this is great. Neverland on, when Robin Williams gets to just sort of be himself and gets to play to his physical strengths and gets to use when he's playing tight, stuffy dad Robin Williams, I'm just not buying that at all. I buy Robin Williams as soon as he hits Neverland. I buy that guy. I don't know if I buy the 30 minutes prior to that. And I think that's the rub. I think if I can pinpoint one area where I'm like, this doesn't work, it's the fact that Grandma Wendy is Grandma Wendy and not Peter Pan's girlfriend Wendy. It's the fact that it's just different. It just feels weird to me. And I think that's where I had challenges. I have other ones too, but I want to continue to open it up to others. Ryan, do you have a thought on my thought on the opening?
I think that one of the common threads of movies of this time is a very strong critique of work and hustle culture.
I agree.
And I think
culture.
that's yeah. And I think that, the walking out in the big suit with the big cell phone and the glasses and the, the clean shaven, perfectly coiffed hair, like, that's just like, that's the 80s and 90s, man. Like, that's, and you're also kind of getting this movie at the very start of the upswing of the sort of like punk skater X Games culture, like fuck the authority, the early 90s grunge starting to hit the scene. And like, there's this very, anti-establishmentarianism that is sort of running through the culture at this point. And this movie touches on a lot of that. And I think that, what I like in a more modern movie, would I have liked more exposition at the beginning of what happens in the tree? Sure. But I think in order for this movie to work in the time that it was released culturally, it has to be a critique of growing up and becoming a pirate. And, the sort of, the dichotomy of who he was and doesn't remember and who he is and can't escape. And in a lot of ways, I think that makes the movie more endearing, because he's able to kind of to break those chains and, throw Brad back out the window and kiss his wife. And, I feel like the message of this movie is something that we needed. It's something that we need, and it's something that we always seem to miss, right? The message of embrace your inner child is really easy to see. But the how you do that, by letting go of work and living in the moment and not worrying about time, that is such an important message that especially now as a father. This is the first time I've watched this movie since we had Kieran. Especially as a father, I think that it's so important as a cultural message, and I feel like too many people missed the point.
Like, you're thinking of the critics, right? Like, they kind of miss the...
Not just the critics, right? I mean that even people who like this movie, right? They like the whimsical, they like the nostalgia, but you know, the reason that this movie is good is because it hits kids at a level that they like what's happening, and you get the fairy tale, but it hits parents with this sort of like, hey, do you see how your kids are watching this movie? Like, look over at them real quick and appreciate this, and understand that you're spending time with your kids the same way that Dustin Hoffman spent time with his kids on set, right? That the way that everybody's kids were involved in making this movie, and that the way that the child actors in this movie just seem to have a blast, even if they're not great actors.
They're not great actors, I'll just say.
But,
kid actors in general, I hate children. Yeah, most kid actors are just terrible.
But what they are is they don't need to be great actors. What they are is rambunctious, unruly kids. And they're perfect for that. And it's really, really easy to look at your kid when he's screaming and he's hitting you in the balls for the third time and throwing Hot Wheels cars.
This is getting a little close to home here.
It's really easy to miss that. Like, something happened tonight, and I'll get into this a little deeper at another time, but we're watching Remember the Titans today because Lauren has this schedule of like fall movies that she's watching. Right. And she looks at me at like 1 p.m. and says, let's watch Remember the Titans. Great. I love that movie. I've loved that movie forever. Let's watch it.
Gets you in a football mood too.
That's right. It's football season. And we get to about 3/4 of the way through the movie, right? This is, right around Bertier's accident. And Kieran runs in with a full-sized football raised over his head. And he screams the word football at me. And then he throws the ball at me and asks me to catch it, and I hand it back to him, and we start playing catch in the living room with a full-size ball.
I'm going to start playing Rod Stewart's Forever Young. Like, it's good. You're hitting the emotional stuff now. What does it matter with you?
But like, you see what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Like, those moments are what this movie's telling you to cherish. I could have gotten upset, like, buddy, I'm trying to watch a movie that I like right now. Right? Like, hey, I'm your mom and I are trying to do something right here. Like, we're, can you please just leave me alone for 5 minutes? And I do say that to him periodically, but like, just enjoy it. And I feel like that the people who saw this movie at the time missed that. And I think culturally we need that message, and we're not willing to hear it, that sometimes it's okay to put the work down.
And also, it's a cliche. It's a cliche for a reason. Just because something is a cliche doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's a present and consistent problem. We're talking about this movie in 1991 having this. We're talking about Liar Liar in 1996 having this. Elf also has that thing. There are like 100 movies that have been made between now and then that have that cliche. That doesn't necessarily make it bad. It just means that it keeps happening. And specifically for a very specific generation. And I think that something about millennials, us, that kind of hits close to home. And so you're watching this movie, we're watching this movie as parents, but we're also watching this movie as kids.
That's fair. That's very fair. And maybe I'm just now officially too old and I don't have kids that I can't appreciate those types of things. Allison, keep going. You wanted to get back in.
Yeah. So on both Ryan and Lauren's point about this whole, enjoying the moment, trying to put the work down, I want to elaborate on that and say the 80s and the work hustle culture, the 90s being all about rebellion and about fuck the system and about like squatting in places and just leaving the situation, that was in response to what was going on in the 80s. It was a response to all of that. And when I was watching this movie for the umpteenth time yesterday, You know what clicked to me is that, Jack and Maggie and those kind of kids who grew up with lawyer parents, or like their parents worked 80-hour-a-week jobs and everything. By the way, those jobs still exist. And in fact, that level of demand of always needing to be there is still there, except instead of phone calls all the time, which I'll get into Brad later. He was annoying. Now it's emails, now it's Slack, now it's whatever. But those kids of lawyers and yuppie people and everything from the 80s and 90s, they're all grown up now. And that trauma of being neglected as a child, they are shaping our culture and story now of, okay, maybe you were either A, conditioned to praise hustle culture and work 24/7 no matter what. You see that all the time. But you can also see how instead of being all about money and getting material success, it's about ideas, it's about data, it's about really changing the world. Like, yeah, I am working 8 hours a week and neglecting my family, but it's for a really good purpose. It's not just for money. So I think that's a very interesting point to make.
I got to stick up for the hustle culture just for a little bit on that, because I do think there are lots of parents, families that have to do that, like that have to hustle, that have to work a lot to provide opportunities. And I think, again, those kids, those folks who were 30, 40 in 1990, like my parents, right? You're grinding because you want more for your kids than what you got, right? And when you look at like Peter in this case, orphan, comes from nothing, right? It's this idea of like, oh, I don't want that for my, now granted, you could argue, well, he's absentee, so that makes it whatever, so he's no different than being an orphan. I'm like, I would argue it's still very, very different, and he's trying to make their lives better. That the heart is in the right place. We could argue that maybe it's misguided in the moment, and I think that's fair. But I don't think, just like in Liar Liar, right? I don't think anybody questions Jim Carrey's character's love for his son, right? Or anybody questions in Elf that there's no love there for I mean, of course, it's just, I think you get, like, those parents are so driven and so single-minded and so focused on trying to make the best life humanly possible for kids that I do agree that sometimes they can stop seeing the forest for the trees. Right. And I think maybe that was the case in this movie. And it's the case with hustle culture in general.
Yeah. To that end, that leads to an interesting point about how the idea of family has changed in the past 30 years. When this movie was made, it was still like standard to have the nuclear family. You were going to get married, you were going to have a job, you were going to have a house with a picket fence, and you were going to have 2.5 kids. That was the script for life. And
Fair.
Now, so there wasn't even a moment of like, oh, should we really have kids if I want to become a lawyer or a stockbroker or whatever, and I won't ever see them? Not that those conversations weren't happening, but now I feel like the conversation of should we really have kids is becoming more prevalent in my generation and Lauren and Ryan's generation and all that. So
that's fair.
It's becoming more normalized to say, you know what?
So maybe they need to watch Hook.
Maybe they
so that they can have kids. Maybe they need to watch this movie then, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, I have 2 second cousins. My mom's cousin's kids, okay? Their father was, a hoity-toity, big-time stockbroker, I believe, something like that. Good father, for all accounts, to his kids when he was present, but he was away from them a lot. And I don't mean to put them on the spot, so I won't put their names out, into the world.
Yeah, don't make me edit any more than I have to after podcast. I mean, I already had to do way too much of that for Twister, so don't make me do that.
The horrible thing is he passed away young from cancer. And the already few moments he had with his kids was cut even shorter because of death. Horrible situation to happen to the family. Did he get boatloads of money from his job? Yeah, he did. But what really matters is, do we have these jobs and these kids? We are having these questions. I love my cousins. Let me make that clear. I'm glad they're here. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I think your point is valid.
Question.
Yeah, we tend to forget those things at the end. I think perspective is important, and it's a good conversation, and it does hit on those things. And you know what? Maybe it hits different to your generation, Lauren and Ryan and Allison, than it does mine. And I think maybe that's the challenge. Is I'm older, I'm bitter, I've seen too much I don't like too much exposition, and the movie was too long for me. But that's me looking at it from a movie and not from a message. And I think maybe that's where I'm missing the boat. And I think I can admit that. I could probably say.
Oh, for sure. And there's some ethicality to the question of whether we should even have jobs that demand 80-hour work weeks. And I know it's a complicated society where a lot of these jobs that are that
Ryan, football coach, you jerk. No, I'm just kidding.
Because of essentially like rich people existing, really? Like lawyers.
Oh, now we're getting into socialism stuff. No, Come on. I got to defend against the mad, crazy righties on this pod.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about it. I'm just saying, like, that is a conversation that exists. You know,
that's fair.
Like,
if we want to go way off the beaten path, I've got a socialist rant ready for you. But,
how about let's talk about some actors. Let's talk about actors. We talked a little bit about Dustin Hoffman, right? You guys love Hoffman. I think he's better in Rain Man. He's better in Kramer versus Kramer. I mean, there's just better films for Dustin Hoffman. But I do think Robin Williams. This is peak Rob. I mean, I still don't think this is his best work, but this is when you think of Robin Williams, or when I think of Robin Williams, this is the time period where I do think of him. Right? Good Morning Vietnam is. Yeah,
this is when he blew up. I mean,
Good Morning Vietnam was what, 88, 87?
87. Yeah, and before that, it was like Mark and Mindy, Mork.
Yeah,
and Mindy,
for sure. Don't get that wrong.
He did a lot of stand-up. That was his big thing. Dead Poets Society was big, but it wasn't.
That's 89, right? 89 for Dead Poets Society.
And
Awakenings is 1990,
if
I'm not mistaken. Which I told Lauren about Awakenings already. She needs to watch that one. This is where I remember. This is where, when you ask me to think about Robin Williams, it's this gap. So I love Good Morning Vietnam. I love Dead Poets Society. Those are all great. But I think it's Hook, into Aladdin, into like Jumanji and Mrs. Doubtfire. This is the Robin Williams and Birdcage. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like this 6-7 year gap of Robin Williams that is my Robin Williams jam. Like, this is when you ask me to think of Robin Williams stuff. This is it. Lauren, I mean, I think I don't know where you think Robin Williams' best work is. You could argue it's Aladdin or whatever it is, but this is right there for you, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's really hard to pick. Ryan and I were talking about this yesterday. Not everything that Robin Williams does is like amazing.
No,
but when it is amazing, it is iconically amazing. It is near flawless stuff happening. And all of that seems to happen between like late 80s to basically the entirety of the 90s. What I think is like so amazing about him is that what he's known for is obviously his like wild comedic stylings. And what I actually think is so impressive about him is his personal ability to know when to pull back. It's why I think he's good in this movie. Do I think this is his absolute best work? No, but that's because his best work is insane. It's like
Good Will Hunting. It's Good Will Hunting. It's Dead Poets Society. It's Good Morning Vietnam.
That doesn't mean it's bad work by any stretch of the imagination. It's amazing work. What I love about like the first like hour and a half, he's Peter Banning. Even
Yeah.
in Neverland, he's Peter Banning. He doesn't really understand who he is until he finds that happy thought. And that means that for the majority of the movie, he's not really playing around. He's super stuffy and kind of boring. He's a little agoraphobic even.
Yeah.
And I like all of those pieces because he does something that we talked about a little bit when we did the Birdcage. He is the straight man in this wild, crazy world happening around him, which I think is really impressive because that is not something that he is known for at all. And he does it pretty impressively. And then because he is who he is, when he becomes like Peter Pan, it's so believable. It's so like, oh, obviously this man is Peter Pan.
He flips the switch and he becomes Robin Williams, right? And it's
Yes.
like, and all of a sudden you're like, now it all makes sense, right? It all comes together. Now he was too tight. It's too straight laced, but now we're getting like real Robin Williams. And I think that's what, going into it, when you watch the old trailers, you go into it thinking you're going to get that all the time. Like you're going to get fun Robin Williams this whole way. And I don't know, it just something about it. It just felt like it took too long to get there. I don't know, but I do think this is what you think about. Ryan, Robin Williams. I know you're a huge fan.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this is one of maybe 3 or 4 roles of his that I would put on my Mount Rushmore for him.
Oh, that's a good, we should have that convo. So you go this, Aladdin, Good Will Hunting, and something else, or do you have what do you think?
I would say Flubber.
Clearly
Mrs. Doubtfire,
bicentennial
actually.
man.
Yo, Mrs. Doubtfire. Yep. Okay.
I love Jumanji too.
See, that's it. It's hard to get a Mount Rushmore for Robin Williams, though.
It is.
Just like it's hard to get one for Tom Hanks.
They're all so different too.
I do think that's what's good about Williams. Like in the 90s and into 2000s, when he really started to do more dark roles in the 2000s, in the latter stages of his life. The 90s, it was like, I'm going to do Dead Poet Society and Awakenings to close out the 80s and into the 90s. And he couldn't be more straight in those movies. Like he's the straight, he has fun in Dead Poet Society. In Awakenings, he is not comical at all. Like there is no jokes. And then he does movies like this, and he does movies like Aladdin, where he is all over the place and his voice is everywhere and he's powerful. And you can't picture anybody else being the genie than Robin Williams. Right. And I do agree. Yeah, he jumps to Mrs. Doubtfire, where he's this believable dad character. And he's a child at heart. He's always kind of that. I think that's when he's at his best sometimes. Comedically is when he's a kid at heart and he's got energy. And he's his best dramatically when he's not that. When he's just a regular dude. And it's not over the top. Like What Dreams May Come. I can't do that one. It's boring. It's terrible. It's not my favorite movie at all. Like I hate it. But I love Good Will Hunting. And he's off the charts in Good Will Hunting, playing this really serious role. But that's real. It's a real honest role.
But even that is like the only other person that I think would be a good comparison to Robin Williams is Jim Carrey.
Fair.
And that I think that Jim Carrey is just as good of a dramatic actor as he is a comedic actor. The difference is that I don't think Jim Carrey can flip as seamlessly in the same movie. Does that make sense? So like all of his dramatic roles are dramatic movies, and all of his comedic roles are comedic movies, and there's very little overlap inside of them. There's a lot of overlap inside of the movies that Robin Williams does. There's obvious overlap in this one. Clearly, it's like there's like a line. But even in Good Will Hunting, he's improvising in Good Will Hunting. There's like an improvised scene about how his wife farted in her sleep. And it's so endearing and so sweet and so funny, but like in the rest of the movie, he's so grounded and real and honest to the character. I think he's just as gifted in both areas, but also like a special third way of being gifted in that he is so good at flipping back and forth. And that's why I think this movie is so iconic for him, because it is the epitome of his talents.
You might have hit on it, Allison. You might have hit on this, Lauren, because I think maybe that's it. The Jim Carrey comparison is really good. I think what's interesting with Carrey is I don't think audiences, by and large, have bought the serious Jim Carrey. I think, or if they've bought it, they don't like it nearly as much as they like comical Jim Carrey. And I think that's been the push-pull of his career, is like he wants to branch out and do serious stuff, and the audiences are kind of just like, no, we like you better over here. We like you doing the Ace Venturas and the Dumb and Dumbers and all that stuff. So go ahead and do more of that. And I think maybe that's my issue with Dustin Hoffman, is maybe I want Dustin Hoffman to do Rain Man, to do Kramer versus Kramer, and not try to be cartoony or funny or whatever. And as an audience member, that's my fault, right? Because I have to be able to embrace the actor doing everything. And for whatever reason, I just don't totally wrap my head around his performance, because I think I see him as Dustin Hoffman, serious actor. You know, I see him, just like I see Jim Carrey as funny actor, not serious actor. You know what I mean? And maybe that's the challenge that I'm dealing with in this one. Allison, your thoughts?
Here is why Robin Williams' flip-flopping works so well, and where the likes of Jim Carrey's doesn't feel as natural, or Dustin Hoffman with comedic and, you know. Robin Williams is not explicitly trying to be funny or serious. At the heart of all of his performances, even when he is improvising to the gods and everything, is empathy with the character and the situation and heart. He is an incredibly empathetic actor. You feel what he is feeling, whatever he is expressing. When he was doing Dead Poet Society, that could have easily been like, oh, this comedic actor Mork from Mork and Mindy is trying to branch out. Oh my gosh. But the reason why it works so well is because he's not Robin Williams. He's your teacher trying to make you a better student to the utmost degree. And you believe that.
Absolutely.
I think you've hit on it. We're at the 50-minute mark. Man, Jesus. So that means we got to get to the categories. But this is where we like to get to the categories. This was good stuff. Ryan, let's lead off categories. Favorite scene?
Oh, the food fight is probably number one for me. I love that scene.
It is a good scene. I like it.
I love the scene where Peter and Hook are talking before the fight begins, and then right after that, my favorite moment in the whole movie is when Peter tells Jack that he's his happy moment, his happy thought. I love that part. I think it's great. Those are probably my favorite scenes.
Jesus Christ. I forgot we haven't even talked Julia Roberts.
Oh my God, we have thoughts.
Jesus Christ.
Oh God.
What is happening? I will say this. My one challenge with Julia Roberts, and we'll get to favorite scenes because Lauren, you're going to be up next on this one. My challenge on Julia Roberts is I do feel she's disconnected from so much of the shots feel so like she's not there. Like, it's clear that it's just Robin Williams talking to a green screen, Julia Roberts talking to a green screen, and just too many shots of Julia Roberts looking at something and smiling. Like, oh, it's like, I don't know, this isn't going very well. Why are you smiling, Julia? I have no idea what's happening. And then the secret love that Tinkerbell has for Peter Pan, and she becomes a grown woman. It's just, I'm like, whoa, left field. Where the hell did that come from? It's just, I don't think Julia Roberts is bad in this movie at all. It's different for her, and I appreciate that. But it's just, I don't know. It just, for me, it just feels a little disconnected. I don't know if you see it that way, Lauren. Obviously, you can get to your favorite scenes, but go ahead and throw out your thought on Julia Roberts, and then go from there.
I don't disagree with those points. I would say if the movie struggles with anything, it is the introduction of Tinkerbell, and I think that is more practical than anything else, a practical problem. I do think you can tell that they kind of struggle to put her in, and I think, what on earth?
Again,
That's
Lauren.
2 podcasts,
That's
Lauren.
2 podcasts in a row, Lauren.
I turned my sound off.
Sweet Jesus, what are we doing? All right,
My
continue,
apologies.
please.
Anyways.
No, you're okay. Sorry.
No, I think the Tinkerbell stuff is probably the hardest stuff, but I don't want them to cut it because I do like Julia Roberts.
Can't
and
cut it.
I love some of the lines, and I haven't said any of my fun facts so far. We
don't even have a Tom Kane fact of the week yet. We're going to be pushing that. Jesus Christ.
So Carrie Fisher did some rewriting for this movie, a lot of which were Tinkerbell's lines. And
Tinkle. Let's call her that. Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell's lines. And I think a lot of that has to do with they clearly weren't confident on how to put her into this movie. So the lines, I think the written dialogue and the fact that it's Julia Roberts really saves that character. I think the fact that she's in love with Peter and she wanted to kiss him at least once.
Peter did cheat on his wife like 7 times in this movie, like with all 3 of those mermaids, with Tinkerbell. Lot going on.
In fairness, he was thrown into the water. He has no idea where he is.
That's okay. That's fair. I'll concede.
But I think that's more kind of from the original story, kind of this implied kind of cute, innocent love that Tinkerbell obviously has for Peter, in that even in the cartoon, she's like a little jealous of Wendy. So I think that's more of they clearly tried to put that in there, but like they didn't really set it up, so it just kind of feels clunky.
Go ahead, Allison. Here's the
Yeah.
whole thing about Julia Roberts being Tinkerbell feeling off for me. And it is very particular and clear, and it took me 20 years of watching this movie before I pinned it down. Because yes, Julia Roberts is a good actress. She's not bad. She's very good. Movie. Here's the thing, though. There's nothing Pixie-like about her. I think they just straight up miscast the part. This is a character that does have to have that kind of like energy and drive, and we have to get Peter Pan over to Neverland and get this show going. So there has to be kind of a spunk to her. But I don't believe her as Pixie.
She's short on spunk.
She's not also seemingly from Neverland. Even though she's a literal fairy, everyone from Neverland is feeling like they're like a childlike, over-exaggerated almost. When the food fight system thing was happening, the food fight scene, that sense of having fun felt kind of forced from her. It didn't feel genuine. Like she didn't feel like she was part of Neverland, like she was in the moment.
I think that's just because I don't think she's she's not part of the movie in those regards. Like she's not standing next to Robin Williams, I don't think, in a lot of these scenes, because obviously they're CGIing
To Lauren's point, it's a practical situation. But again, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about like Kristen Chenoweth type energy would have been better. It was before Kristen Chenoweth, but someone like that.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She had to be short, kind of have that higher voice maybe. But again, that kind of spunk and spark, and we're going to get something done.
We might have to talk about that in a recast. We'll have to think about that one. Lauren, favorite scene?
Okay, so they're all very sappy, so I'm sorry. This movie makes me cry like crazy, and
Did you cry watching this?
Now I'm a mom, and it's like all bets are off. I just cried for 2 hours. The scene with the little kid who, by the way, looks like David Alan Grier. I think about that every time I watch this movie.
I do agree with you.
I'm like gaslighting myself and Googling, like, was David Alan Grier a child in 1991?
No, he was in A Living Color.
And anyways, so David Alan Grier grabs like Peter's face and like moves it around and is like, oh, this is Peter. And they all just hug him, and oh my god, love it so much. It's just so, I don't know, it's like so sweet and so caring and so loving. I have a couple. Any scene where Hook and Smee are talking privately or plotting is
some
like,
good stuff there.
I mean, I feel like I'm watching just like two people have the time of their lives. Bob Hoskins Smee, underrated in this movie. He is just like, he's killing it every time. He doesn't have that many scenes, doesn't have that many lines. He's killing it every time he does. You can feel how much he wants to be there. He's just having so much fun. At the closer to the end of the movie, he walks into the back room and he's like, "Who is Smee? Smee is me. Smee is me. Smee is me." Okay. Like, it's just oh man.
What about me?
Yes. What about me? Smee is me. I love when you can tell that an actor is like, oh my God, this is like the funnest thing they've ever done. And then I know we just talked about how much we don't like the Tinkerbell plot, but there is one line that she says at the end of the movie that I think is beautifully written, and it's because it was written by Carrie Fisher. And it's her admitting that obviously she and Peter can't be together for obvious reasons. And she says, "You know, that place between asleep and awake, that's where, that place where you still remember dreaming, that's where I'll always love you." I mean, that's like the most beautifully written line in all of like the history of cinema. What an impeccable sentiment. Mm-hmm. Oh God. I absolutely, that is why I don't want the Tinkerbell stuff written out, because
you can't write it out. It's an important part of the story. You got to have it. It just felt a little weird is all. Allison, favorite scenes?
Favorite scenes when he's in the tree and it's clicking to him. Oh my God, that's where Wendy sat. And the teddy bear. Oh my God, when he picks up the teddy bear.
It's a nice scene. It is a nice scene. No question about it. Nice scene.
Just right leading into him being a baby, and that whole montage with Gwyneth Paltrow and seeing Wendy grow up. Oh my God. And then when he becomes a daddy, and he doesn't even use the use of the word daddy particularly is just and then he starts flying, and then waterworks, and then
it's just a crying fest here. This is really what we're coming down to.
The other thing too is any scene that Maggie Smith is in as Granny Wendy, I think that she is perfect for this role. It was, she's supposed to be playing this 90-year-old woman. By the way, she was 59.
I was going to say, Maggie Smith has been 90 for 50 years. She looks the exact same.
This is why we think she's been 90 for 50 years, because they put a shit ton of makeup on her. She's like mid 50s or something in this movie.
Does this Sister Act, and then like she shows up 20 years later in Downton Abbey. I'm like, or in Harry Potter. I'm like, I thought she was like 130 years ago. What happened?
But she is so good in this role, because she is just that gentle, so good with kids. That entrance where you just see her in the shadow of like all this chaos of everyone arriving from, America. Oh my gosh. And then you just see her and you're like, that is the matriarch of the house.
Yeah.
But she is not like hard matriarch. She is loving matriarch. And it's like, here comes grandmom. Oh my God. Oh, anyway, favorite scenes.
Ryan, do you have any other favorite scenes?
Oh, I mean, anything with Toodles.
Toodles might be the ultimate swing for the fence guy. Like, just the ultimate. I'm here for 5 seconds. It's going to be a heat check. Everything I do is going to be really good.
Heat check.
That actor, also in Mary Poppins. I love every scene that he's in. That the "It's snowing" line might be one of the most quoted lines from this movie in my household. Where the Bannings knock on the door, he opens it, and they're expecting a hello, and he just shouts, "It's snowing!" and he shuts the door.
Have you ever thought about doing that to the pizza guy? Like when he shows up.
When I was a kid, somebody knocked on the door, I don't remember if it was pizza or Chinese delivery. My parents had ordered food. And I opened the door. I shouted, "It's snowing," and slammed the door. And my dad told me I'm not allowed to get the door for food anymore.
That's perfect.
I'll give you another
That's
one of those,
perfect.
Ryan. That was fantastic. Least favorite scenes. Ryan, you want to start with lead off on least favorite scenes? Do you have any?
Big Tink.
Big Tink. Yeah, Big Tink that's a good one. I agree.
I don't love that scene. It's the only part of this movie that I'm like, all right, I could do without that.
It's too much messing around with the cannon. You got to stop.
I still like the scene. It's just my least favorite.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, there is not a single other scene that I would change.
Lauren, least favorite scene.
I agree. It's Big Tink. And it's also, to your point earlier, just a general editing thing in the movie is that there are quite a few scenes of people just reacting to things. Just a lot of scenes of like Tinkerbell just
Yeah, just they're having fun down there. Look at them.
This movie's already 2.5 hours long. Let's just cut all those little pieces. We'll save 10, 15 minutes.
Allison, least favorite scene.
The Brad stuff got to me. Like
All the Brad stuff, yeah.
At the beginning, it was like, okay, we're establishing that Peter is a workaholic. But being a grown-up now and having worked in an appraisal firm and have, worked on big major projects where people are really connected and, like what Peter is working on is like $1 billion enterprise something deal. Like major money's going into it. And for what I can say is maybe Robin Williams was improvising those phone calls, who knows? But, that's the idea, right? Brad, let's take a moment and remember, okay, it's the 90s. Email isn't really taking off yet.
Yeah, I agree. There's no email. Couldn't be in an email.
Everything is going to be phone calls. Okay. That being said, if this is $1 billion some odd deal, Peter is not the only point of reference on that team, on that case. No way.
Have to think.
He is not the only guy you call on that situation. And it is established that the law firm knows that he is going to be away in England during this time. So now you're thinking of international fees for phone calls.
I know. I mean, this phone bill's got to be absurd. It's just ridiculous.
And yet
something tells me he's not worrying about money.
Yeah.
Well, but it's company money, right?
It's company money. That's an expense.
But at any rate, isn't it even just about that? Like, it's also established that Peter is going over to England for like an important event. It's not like just hanging out with family for Christmas. It's delivering a speech to open a hospital wing for this notable person, Granny Wendy Darling, Grandma or Granny, I don't know. Anyway, the point is
we need less Brad. We need less Brad, less phone calls.
And that leads to the end where, Peter returns to Neverland and, we get a moment where I feel like this could have been a moment where the ending would have been stronger. If I were to tweak anything in this movie, it would have been the very end where he just had Neverland moment. The whole theme of the movie is be in the moment. Oh my gosh. And the phone rings again. It's frickin' Brad again, of course. And Peter still picks it up. And
he picks it up.
He does this nonsense of like, oh yeah, I was in Neverland. I'm going to go up this pole up
I'm going to shimmy this drain pipe. I'm going to do this.
Which, by the way, that should have been Brad's call to be like, okay, leave Peter alone. He is wackadoo right now.
Yeah, he just flipped out. I got to stop calling him.
I got to stop.
Brad has no boundaries. I mean, we're talking here about Peter having no boundaries. Brad has no boundaries. I want to know what's up with Brad's wife, because if I was Brad's wife, I would be like, get off the fucking phone.
Yeah, and then, but okay, it doesn't, like, okay, if you're gonna have Peter answer the phone, that should have been the only time. He answers a second time, and even though that second time is to tell Brad to screw off and throw the phone away, you're still in front of your wife who has been missing you and your kids for the past 3 days, and you're still gonna leave, I have to take this call. You know,
Brad's been calling nonstop since they left. It's like a little less Brad in my life is what I'm saying. First of all, I haven't met a Brad I like either. It's a great name for a guy like that, because who knows a Brad they like? I don't know very many.
I have a cousin named Brad, and he's a pretty cool dude, but yeah.
Well, then, withdrawn, Allison. Withdrawn, damn it.
There's always an exception.
I'm going to plead the fifth on Brad's.
Yeah. Let's go here. Ryan, Carrie Fisher, Sebastian Stan, Selena Gomez.
We don't need it. Carrie Fisher already made
Carrie
this movie
Fisher's
better.
in it.
She's not in it. She wrote it.
Yes, she's in it.
What is she in?
Okay. When they float away to Neverland, like the first time when Peter floats away to Neverland, there's a couple kissing on a bridge. It's George Lucas and Carrie Fisher.
Oh, I did not know that.
She's in it.
Nice. Okay, so that's out.
The rumor is that George Lucas told her that modern women in London do not wear bras.
Could Selena Gomez play Tinkerbell?
Nah.
That she'd be my pick. Or is she not? She's also maybe not pixie enough. You might be right, Allison, on that one.
I think it's the voice for Selena Gomez. Like, she has that almost vocal fry border drawl. Like,
yeah, she could do. She'd be like, Peter, we got to go back to Neverland. It's going to be a tough time.
We got to go back to Neverland.
Yeah.
If you're going to ask me to cast a modern Tinkerbell, my answer is Florence Pugh.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's
Florence
not bad.
Pugh, either Florence Pugh or to a lesser degree Saoirse Ronan.
Nah, she's too.
I don't think Saoirse Ronan.
I would put Ariana Grande before I would put Saoirse Ronan, because you need a pixie. You need somebody who has a squeaky voice and does squeaky things. I don't even like Ariana Grande. I'm just saying that she's got a squeaky voice. She looks like the part.
I don't have anything to refute that. I mean, you're right. I just don't like it.
Or Mila Kunis or something like that. Though she might be too old now officially. Yeah, she's too old for it. But a young Mila Kunis maybe could have done that. I don't know. That's not bad. Oh, I got like a young Anna Faris, like Scary Movie Anna Faris. This is probably the one I would have.
If we're taking people at any era, I think that Alexis Bledel would have been good too.
Okay, I can listen to that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
kind of ethereal.
Yeah.
So no Sebastian Stan. Could Sebastian Stan play Hook, Lauren? You're a big Sebastian Stan fan here.
Sebastian Stan, I don't know. Maybe Look, I'm honest, okay? I'm in love with him, but I'm honest. Maybe he's Glenn Close, okay?
See, you love him, but you don't want to put him in anything. You were like, no, he can't be in this movie.
I think he's super talented. It's just that he has a vibe, and it's just like not the vibe of anyone in this movie. I do not think he's Hook. I think that part of the appeal of like Dustin Hoffman as Hook is that he's kind of, like not grungy. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
Allison will have to come up with a fourth actor to add to this list at some point.
I think Sebastian Stan's Hook would be like when they tried to make Jared Leto the Joker, and they were just like, what if the Joker was hot? And it's like, well, that doesn't really give what you think it's giving. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's good stuff. Could this movie be a 10-episode series on Hulu?
It could if you paced it in a very particular way. And in fact, I don't even say 10 episodes, maybe like 6. But
would you watch a 6-episode Hulu series on Hook?
What you would have to do is you would have to really get deeper into Peter's past.
Oh yeah, that'd
You
be a
know, a
whole
lot
episode.
of this is up for like a lot of this movie, everyone forgets everything that happens in Neverland. Neverland is like Vegas, okay? You forget what happens on Earth when
Now I
you're
wanna
in
go to
Neverland.
Neverland.
You start making out with mermaids, you start flying around, and you start killing people. You can start
This
killing
sounds
pets.
awesome. Yeah,
And
I
then
need to
you
go there.
leave Neverland, and like Vegas, you forget about the good time you had, but you have a particular part of you that's like, but I remember the vibes of it, or maybe you don't want to remember.
And that's the better answer. That's the better one when it comes to Vegas.
But there's this forgettability about Neverland
Fair.
that could be answered in a Hulu series.
I could listen to that.
I also think the Tinkerbell thing would make more sense with time. It's just that the movie was already 2.5 hours long.
So you're in on a 6 to 10 episode Netflix series here, aren't you?
I think so. I think it would be fun. I think the reason that this movie is so long is because there is so much richness in it. And while I think for the most part it's edited the way that it should be, it could easily be expanded.
Ryan would be in on a 10 episode series of this, I think. I think Ryan would be in on this.
No, I'm not. I
wow.
like the movie the way that
no.
it is. Sorry.
You just like it the way it is. No need to change it.
Nope. I'm good with even if you think it's a flaw, I like it. I'm with it. I think that it gives the movie character. It's a perfect movie to me. I don't want to change a thing.
It's like Twitter.
Ryan,
It's like Twitter, where the fewer characters there were, the better, because that was part of the art of Twitter.
Yep.
The fewer Elon Musks, the better.
Okay, how about this then, Ryan?
I love this movie. I
Lead it off for me then. Who wins the movie?
Dustin Hoffman.
Wins the movie for you.
100%.
Big win for Dustin Hoffman. Big win. Lauren, big win for who?
Kids. Big win for kids.
I want to squeeze in a fun fact, by the way, about the kids in this movie. So you know Jack, the actor who plays Jack?
Yeah, I kind of got tired of Jack.
Charlie Korsmo is from Golden Valley, Minnesota.
What?
I looked it up.
How did we not know this?
I looked it up out of curiosity. Yeah.
He probably squeezed in 18 this morning at Golden Valley Country Club.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that he went to Yale Law School, was a member of the Federalist Society, and openly supported the nomination and approval of Justice Samuel Alito.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe he sucks,
weird.
but
he's
from Minnesota.
I knew I didn't like him. I knew it. See, my instincts are good. Is that the Tom Kane fact of the week, by the way?
We can call it that if you want. I don't want to attach my father-in-law's name to that, but I generally try to mentally separate him and Republicans. So
good call.
Unless they're Irish.
Big win. Allison, who's this a big win for?
Robin Williams.
It's a big win for him.
I think it is a big win for him because it shows his full range, and it's Robin Williams without guardrails when he's Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm. That's a scary thought, but it's actually not bad. That's not bad. I agree. Big win for kids. Big win for kids movies. Big win for Dustin Hoffman. Because I mean, it is part of Dustin Hoffman. I mean, it's going to be when you start thinking of like, I don't think it's his Mount Rushmore. I don't think it's in his 4 best, but I do think like to a lot of people it will be. Like a lot of people will put, especially in your generation, Lauren, Allison, Ryan, you'd put this as one of Hoffman's 4 biggest films. It's very possible because, I mean, many people from your generation have not seen Kramer versus Kramer or The Graduate or any of these kinds of films, right? That the films that he's famous for in the 70s into the 80s, that's not what the Dustin Hoffman that you grew up with. It's very, very different. So it is a big win for him.
Even if you have seen those movies, those are obviously very iconically Dustin Hoffman movies and what he's known for. Even if you have seen those movies, it's just like, this is so different from those, and it shows a completely different side to him that I think, again, you can tell he had fun making it. And that's like, you know, the vibes you give off as an actor is like 50% of it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
no, that's fair.
His best comedic role was Tootsie. You know,
yeah, that's true. That's fair.
In Tootsie, he wasn't over dramatic and cartoonish and all of that. you could buy him as Tootsie, and he was hilarious in it, but not because he was cartoonish and animated like he is here.
I forget about Tootsie a lot. You're right. I mean, that's definitely a comedy. It's something different, and I think if you buy him in Tootsie, you should buy him in Hook. You're right. I probably didn't think about that. I'll concede that one. Nice job on that. Big win for Dustin Hoffman.
Big win for the three of us convincing you that this is a good movie.
I didn't say it was a bad movie. I just said it wasn't my favorite movie. You said you were lukewarm on Twister. I was lukewarm on this one. But you guys made a good case. You made a very good, compelling case. It's nice. Lauren?
It's easy to make the case for something you love, Tim.
Are you saying I don't love anything?
No, I'm saying I love this movie.
Oh, good call. Lauren, where are we going next? What's our next one?
I have it up this time. We are starting our fall Halloween watches this year.
Okay.
So our next pick is my pick. It is the 2009 cult classic Jennifer's Body. I cannot wait to hear.
I actually don't think I've ever seen it. I do not know the movie.
You're going to hate it so much. I love it.
Why do you do this to me? Why? Why do you do this?
Because I love it so much, but you are going to hate it. And
I don't do this to you. I know you hate some of the movies I
do.
pick. No, I don't. What movie do you hate, honestly?
Point Break? Are you kidding me? You picked that out of the kindness of your heart?
Point Break was awesome.
Are we really having this out on the podcast right now?
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
We're going to fight. No, I'm kidding. No, you're right. I will watch Jennifer's Body, of course, because that's our rule on the podcast. We always watch. We do not judge until it is time to do the podcast. We have a lot coming up, though, in the fall, as Lauren has mentioned, right? We're doing a little bit of a Halloween-themed fall in general. We've got some big, epic pods coming up in the next month or two. And Allison's going to jump in again with us a couple of times, probably in the fall and into the holiday season, because she's got a million opinions on these things. The football pods are going to go fast and furious here. Ryan and I are going to be on in the next couple of days doing NFC over-unders, and then obviously Zach and Ryan and I doing our weekly picks. Ty will be back on the pod. Allison's going to be squeezing. We got a cast of thousands here at the Tim Anderson Podcast, and I appreciate you. If you need to listen to any of the previous episodes of Peak Cinema, go into the archive, timpodcast.podbean.com. You can find us facebook.com/timpodcast. You can go to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can subscribe to this podcast. Like it, subscribe, tell a friend, comment, all that good stuff. Smash that subscribe button. I hate that, but when people do that. But there you go. And until next time. Hey, Allison, by the way, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. It was really fun doing this. Thanks for having me on.
An hour and 20 minutes just flies by when we're having fun up in here. Ryan, Lauren, love you as always. Until next time on Peak Cinema, this is Tim saying keep your head up. And we'll see you.